The prisoner who raped 3 of his cellmates was serving a sentence of preventive detention for 2 rapes at the time. William Katipa faced a 9-day trial at the High Court in Auckland, where today the jurors returned with their guilty verdicts after deliberating over 3 days. Katipa was serving a sentence of preventive detention when he carried out the separate attacks on 3 younger prisoners during lockdown. Our court reporter Edward Gay was in court when the verdicts came in and told me that while the jury knew Katipa was serving preventive detention, they didn't know what for.
Yeah, that's right. And in his summing up to the jurors earlier this week, Justice Downs told the jurors the reason Katipa is serving preventive detention was utterly irrelevant to their task. He told them not to speculate on what that was, and if they did, that could result in a mistrial. Since the guilty verdicts have come down, we can now report that, according to court documents that RNZ's seen, in 1994, Katipa broke into the home of a 19-year-old woman and raped her in front of her 2-year-old daughter, and that crime actually went unsolved for 8 years. 8 years later, when shortly after being released from prison for burglary, Katipa raped a 13-year-old girl, and when he was arrested, the police took a DNA sample from him and they were able then to link him back to that earlier rape. He pleaded guilty, but not until the morning of that trial that the witness was ready to give evidence. She was in court. He was sentenced in 2005 to preventive detention, and that had a minimum non-parole period of 10 years, but the preventive detention component of the sentence meant that Katipa wouldn't be released until proving that he's no longer a threat to society.
He used his sentence, I guess, the preventive detention, and I guess what you're suggesting is that he was going to be in jail for a very long time, to threaten his cellmates. What was he saying, basically, that he had nothing to lose, was he?
That's right, and that's known inside as being a lifer. So if he had offended and been caught inside prison, the other prisoners knew nothing would be added to a sentence. You can't serve longer than life, obviously. And that's relevant. The Crown said he held that over his victims. He used threats of violence against them. One of them he actually knocked unconscious before raping him. One of the men was repeatedly raped for a week, and another was so scared of reprisals that he only spoke to the police once Katipa had been moved off his wing. The 3 victims, they weren't strangers to prison life, but as they gave their evidence, the effects of what had happened to them were evident to all in the courtroom. And one of the men spoke about having a target on his back after making this complaint. They were worried about being branded as snitches.
Gosh, this is shattering evidence you've been listening to, Eddie. Katipa, of course, said it was all made up, didn't he?
That's right. His defence was the complainants had lengthy criminal records. Some had a history of dishonesty offending. It also emerged during the trial that one of the complainants was suing corrections for what had happened. Katipa's lawyer said that showed they had motivation to lie. But after this lengthy jury deliberation over 3 days, 14 hours, I added up, Katipa was found guilty, all 14 charges, guilty verdicts on all 14 charges.
So they were going through charge by charge, the jury, right? Yeah.
And he'll be sentenced in November. And this afternoon we heard from the Crown prosecutor, Natalie Walker, in court. She indicated that the Crown will be seeking a further sentence of preventive detention. Just how that works on top of a current sentence of preventive detention.
I guess the key point for everyone involved is that he has to be kept away from other people in prison, right?
And I guess that will go to the parole board, I guess, if or when they make that decision.
Edward Gay was at the High Court in Auckland.